well. Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today I bring you guys another review, and as you can see by the title, today we'll be talking about one of the most hyped up Marvel movies of this year, and that is Black Widow. Let's get started. Okay, so I will be spoiling everything, including the end, in this review, but just like my previous ones, I will be splitting it into two. So I'll start with the non-spoiler and then the spoiler review. So in the meantime, rest assured, I'll let you know when the spoilers start. Okay? So for real, let's get started. Black Widow, this film. I thought initially that it would be an origin story. Okay, so I'm getting origin story. Okay, of how Natasha Romanoff ended up being the Natasha Romanoff we got to know, aka Black Widow. And even though we do get to see the origins of Natasha Romanoff and how she grew up and how she ended up being what she ended up being, the movie isn't exactly an origin story, just like we've seen origin story films being done before in the Marvel universe, like the first Iron Man film. You know, we got to see Tony Stark actually built the first Iron Man suit and him becoming Iron Man and all of that. The Captain America, the first Avenger film, and Captain Marvel and Doctor Strange. You know, we all got to see them being normal and then discover their powers or be recruited or whatever, and then we got to see them kind of sort of adjust and find a brand and kind of find what they're looking for. And that wasn't quite what was happening in this film, because for the most part it takes place in between, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like it takes place in between the Civil War film and Avengers Infinity War. So the movie as a whole, I wouldn't say it was amazing, honestly, especially for the level of hype that it got and the fact that it was being hyped since 2020. You know, before the pandemic, it was like it was supposed to come out last year and it didn't. It kept getting pushed back, and people kept hyping it every time it got pushed back up until it finally came out this year. And for all that hype that it got, it honestly disappointed me. But I still think, you know, Marvel fanatics, Marvel fans are going to be a fan of it. I think they're still going to like it to a certain extent, but for me it just was not as great as the previous ones I've watched, and I'll get into why I thought that way when I talk about the spoilers. And just like all the other Marvel movies, it is long. It is 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, so now let us talk about the film in a bit more detail, shall we? Okay, so the intro of this film, that is technically the origin story of Natasha Romanoff. We get to see her childhood and how she was raised by these two Russian agents whose names I forgot, and she had a sister, Yelena. Sister because they're not quite related, but they call each other sisters because they grew up together. We get to see them being snatched away by, I forgot the dude's name now, but him. And we get to see how they were manipulated and used for evil, essentially, but she was able to escape, and that's how she ended up being the spy that we were first introduced to in the Iron Man films, and eventually became the Avenger that we came to know and love. Now, speaking of the Iron Man movies, I have to note that there are probably certain things in here, correct me if I'm wrong, that link to, you know, how we were first introduced to Natasha in the first Iron Man film, but I didn't watch the first and the second Iron Man films, so I don't know if there's certain information there that I missed that played an important role in this film. So if there is, let me know. I don't know, because I didn't watch those films. Okay. It's honestly shocking that she turned out somewhat good, judging by what she was subjected to at such a young age. Her and Yelena went through it. The amount of trauma that someone will experience being subjected to that at such a young age. What? I got so much anxiety, I won't even lie. When I first was introduced to Yelena, well, the grown-up Yelena, because, you know, it fast forwards 21 years, yes. So the grown-up Yelena, when I saw her, I looked at her, and she looked at me, and we looked at each other, and I was like, you look familiar. I could not put my finger on it I was just like, this girl looks so familiar, and it was just bugging me, and it was just not coming to me. I literally had to go Google Florence and be like, where do I know this girl from? And I was like, oh, MIDSOMMAR! Yes, I remember her from MIDSOMMAR. MIDSOMMAR traumatized me. Also, am I the only one who thinks she kind of sort of sounds like Wanda in this film? Now, my grievances with this film, okay? You know how Marvel tends to, inject a little bit of comedy in their films, and that is what I love the most about their films, that as much as they're serious superheroes, they tend to inject a bit of comedy in each film, and this one just was not funny. Were the jokes that were written into it? Yes, but they just didn't land for me. I was not laughing, and I'm like, okay, I get it, that is supposed to be funny. And also, we get to see Natasha go through it after her reunion with Yelena. They go break their father out of prison, right? Honestly, it took me like a good 20 minutes to recognize who he was. After they broke him out of prison, I was like, new character? Hello? What? I didn't recognize him from the intro. He looked so completely different. I was like, what the heck? How is this guy? How are they the same? I understand, we're supposed to be fighting. Dreykov, is that what his name is? I don't know, it just hit me now, but that guy. I understand, we're supposed to be fighting the evil guys and the bad guys and they were here to, avenge, what happened to them because of Dreykov. I get it. But for me, subjecting Natasha to near-death situations in this film kind of didn't, pack a punch for me, because I knew she wasn't going to die. Knowing that, the events of Endgame hadn't taken place, it's kind of like, okay, we know she's not going to die. So for me, it wasn't like, I wasn't even holding my breath, like, oh my gosh, is she gonna make it? What? Because it's like, we all know that Avengers Endgame is still coming, and that is when she eventually dies. So it's kind of like, no. But I guess maybe you were supposed to be worried about the other girls that were trapped there, as well as Yelena and the parents. Maybe, because I didn't feel nothing for Natasha, because I'm like, girl, I know you ain't gonna die. So the film ends with them, of course, defeating Dreykov and his, I feel like I'm saying this name wrong, but like, you get it, thank you. Fast forwards to after Endgame, and we see Yelena go to Natasha's tombstone, her grave, which I was like, okay, Marvel has cleaned up the mess they made in Endgame, because you all remember how people were hacked, how they were touched, how they were mad, and the fact that everybody's focus went on to Tony Stark and his death, and they completely forgot about Natasha. So he's like, okay, at least, she got herself a little grave, memory, all of that. Woo! I don't know why I said woo, like it's a happy thing, it's not. Now, we get to see Yelena go to her grave, and then a lady shows up next to her, and this lady is Valentina.
Hello, it's me, Valentina.
Now, when I watched this film, I didn't know who she was, but I did see, on the internet that she showed up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I was like, okay, of course I wouldn't know who she is, because I didn't finish watching that show. So I'm not quite sure what exactly she brings to the table, but she then tells Yelena that Natasha's death is because of Hawkeye.
Maybe you'd like a shot at the man responsible for your sister's death. Kind of a cutie, don't you think?
So now I was like, okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Hawkeye has either a movie or a series coming up, right? So does this mean that Yelena is going to be the villain over there now? Because she's like, you killed my sister, I'm gonna come for you. It's kind of ironic that she's going to avenge an Avenger. By the way, okay. And that is where the film ends, 2 hours and 15 minutes later. So as I mentioned, this film was hyped up, like, yo, like even I was well within, I was like, yes. And I was really hoping it didn't disappoint. I think I said that in my trailer reaction video as well. I got it ready, guys. Are you ready? Marvel cannot, please let it not disappoint, because like this trailer is really good, okay? But it did disappoint for me, I won't lie. I honestly am tired to a certain extent of Marvel related content, I don't know. And it's weird because I had just gotten into Marvel back in 2018 when Black Panther came out. Yeah, I'm already exhausted from it. Infinity War and Endgame were like the peak of the whole Avenger storyline, and so now everything after that, it's hard to top that. I don't think anything will ever top that. And granted, I enjoyed WandaVision and I'm enjoying Loki. Like, hey, can't wait for the final episode. What? I'm here. Like, I'm enjoying it. Not Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but at least I'm enjoying those two. And you know, they were great and everything, and they're setting up the story for all these future Avengers that might be popping up left, right, and center because all the OGs ones are like dead, or at least most of them. So I just feel like they reached their peak, and now it's just, I don't know. For some odd reason, when I was watching this film, I kept thinking of Thor Ragnarok, to be specific. Like, that film was hilarious. I don't know why people didn't like it, because apparently they dumbed down Thor, because in the first two films, you know, he was like serious.
I am Thor, God of Thunder.
And then he came here and he was hilarious and he was just goofy and all of that, but I liked it. I don't know why, but that particular film kept popping up in my head as I was watching Black Widow, and I just I don't know, it wasn't for me. Yeah, that's all I have to say. So on that note, don't forget to subscribe, if you like, leave a comment, switch your post notifications, all the amazing stuff. Until next time, stay grand. Bye.